we're going to cover some really sensitive topics.
We are fully recording.
We are.
All right. Alex, kick it off.
We are the Famous Roots Podcast. I'm here with Eric. I'm Alex. We're here to talk about the success stories of celebrities and also hear the perspectives from their inner circles.
And today we have a special guest, Kevin Rudolf, multi-talented writer.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being with us.
Really appreciate it. First question.
Didn't we cover everything before this? No, I'm just kidding.
We actually did.
We did, but we didn't record it, so now
we didn't record it, so now we got to re-record. We got to sound like.
So I got to waste your time on that.
We got to pretend it's the first time.
Yes. So let's, we talked about New York a little.
Mm-hmm.
And so talk about the comparisons of growing up in New York and kind of that lifestyle versus right now in Miami where we're currently recording.
Well, I lived in New York most of my childhood, went to school there, played in bands as a kid, did the whole like Lower East Side thing when I was like 14, 15, went to this night school where you could go to school at, you showed up at like 4 o'clock. There was no homework. Kids were smoking in class. It was like, the Wild West of New York. And, when I moved to Miami, it was like, wait a minute, you can live here? And I fell in love with it. I was coming down. I was working with my friend Jimmy Douglas, who is a mixer, engineer, also producer, working with Timbaland. And we were coming down and doing like the whole Hit Factory thing in like the early, it was like around 2005, I think, working on like Black Eyed Peas and Justin Timberlake, and he was working on Missy Elliott and Jay-Z and all kinds of stuff. And just I fell in love with that whole scene, like being at the Hit Factory at 2 o'clock in the morning, and the Diamonds and the Bentleys, and the whole scene of it was just wild. It was like total hip hop excess in its prime. And then like at 6 o'clock in the morning, leaving and going to seeing the sun come up on the beach, and it was like everything I ever wanted. I think growing up in New York made me want this like somehow tropical lifestyle. So when those two sort of met up where I could find a place in music and still have that, and I moved down here, and then life did change for sure. But I can't get the New York out of me. I still have like the aggression and the grit, and I'm like, all that stuff.
I could tell just by when when you first walked in, you're already talking about the traffic, and like I can imagine you like just honking, come on.
Right. I trashed the podcast room.
Oh my.
We already have bottles full rock star life.
Well, you lived in LA for a while too, right?
I was there a little bit. And that was kind of coming off of being on tour for about a year, and I was doing like a lot of songwriting type sessions, sort of immersed myself in that world, the producer, songwriter world, and that was kind of all out there. And then after, about a year and a half, I kind of had enough. I wanted to get back to my music and somewhere I felt a little bit more grounded.
If you could talk a little more about the songwriting process, do you enjoy that versus actually perform? Like, what's the big difference of performing versus, is there more risk involved in performing, or is there more?
Yeah, you can fall. You can't really fall off the stage when you're writing a song. Well, first of all, if you don't write, you've got nothing to play. So it really starts there. You have to create something that people are going to want to sing back to you. So for me, I don't really like the word songwriting anymore. I just like making stuff, right? Because it feels more like art, and anything that has sort of like a craft associated with it sort of has rules, and then you're thinking about what rules other people are using and what they're doing, and then is it good, is it right, is it wrong? And the more I go, the more I just want to dismantle any kind of framework of anything, because people aren't listening like that anymore. They don't need a 3.5-minute radio pop song with, you can have a jazz instrumental, you can have meditation music, or, there's so much, and it's all art, and it's all great. And I like to look at it as making stuff, and hopefully that ends up as a good song. And then performing is amazing. I mean, it's the most fun thing in the world when it's all like going great. Sometimes you said, is it more dangerous? Really, like the only danger is like, your front of house sucks, your sound sucks, whatever, the crowd isn't feeling it, but that's just part of it. So, you go into, you sort of battle knowing that everything may not go right, but when it goes right, it's the best feeling in the world. Oh my God, it's the best.
So me and my co-host Eric, we're in the corporate world, so it's a
I'm
totally,
sorry to hear that.
honestly, it's a totally it's totally different, and I'm sure there's a lot of viewers out there that are probably listening to this right now in a cubicle thinking like, oh my God, I wish I just could take that extra step and take that risk and, follow my passion. So like, is it hard to be inspired?
You're
and actually
probably
perform?
asking the wrong person, because when I was like 11 or 12 years old, I picked up a guitar and I was like, I sat it wasn't even my parents, because my parents were divorced, and it was kind of more of sort of a free environment. My grandparents were probably the closest ones to having any kind of thought process of that I was like going to do anything within any framework. And I was like, look, I'm not going to be going to college. I'm not going to be getting a job. The guitar is what I'm doing. You should be laughing at that. That was funny. But it was the truth, actually. It was really the truth.
Did they have like
No, I'm just playing.
concern at all, or were they like fully
No.
supportive?
No. They were cool, and I was a kid. So I mean, I'm kind of telling this like half jokingly, and really, I grew up in a very sort of free, artsy. Wasn't really any rules to it in terms of it was like growing up in New York, and my mom was out doing her thing, and she was making she was in bands and doing music. So I was I was kind of carving out my own path anyway. But as far as anyone who wants to do anything, I don't think there's anything wrong with keeping your job and doing it at night. I don't think it's not really about saying, okay, I'm doing this, because the thing is, if it's something you love to do, you're gonna do it. You don't have to make some grand declaration of, this is now my path. I'm going, it's like those movies where the guy, he like works a job, and then he says, okay, I'm going to be a writer and live in the country. Yeah. And then he sits there and he's like, he's got his typewriter and the birds are chirping. And he's like, I got nothing to say. So I think a little bit of resistance can be good. If it's something that you love doing, you don't need to make a declaration. You can just do it. And if you love what you're making at night, and maybe some people around you love it too, and you can send it to some people, and then the feedback is great, and then things start to happen. I don't think you have to like quit life or quit your life to do your dream, unless you just hate it, and then that's different.
So when like you mentioned to your family like, hey, this is the route I'm going to take, how did it feel to hear your music first? Like, where did you first hear it, and like what was the first like reaction or experience hearing your first like
Great
song
question.
out there?
Great question.
It's a long like journey to that kind of thing. I think first it was like the first sense of any kind of feedback I was getting would be like playing shows with bands in New York, and that was like the fun of just being in that lifestyle and being out and playing music. And then I got a record deal pretty early on, got signed, got dropped. Then I went more behind the scenes, playing guitar and working with like Timbaland and doing that kind of thing. But if you're talking like up to the road of hearing your song on the radio, yeah, I mean it's an amazing feeling, and it's a feeling that if you have, you will chase it. You want it. It's funny. It's like it's a double-edged sword too, because then you go back and you go, how did I pull off this trick?
Right.
Because the thing is, I believe like, I know that my songs that did well were written from a pure place, and wasn't trying to have a hit record. I think I just wanted to like resonate in a big way, but I didn't see it as Z100. Like I was very surprised when pop stations were playing my music for the first time. I was like, I mean, in retrospect, it seems simple because those are hit records, and Lil Wayne is on them, and they are on a major label, but
they deserve it.
wow, I appreciate it. But from my perspective at the time, I was just looking at it like, I just want this to like come out and interact with the world in some way.
Right.
The influence and on Let It Rock, it's kind of music changes. If you're doing like, running an ultra marathon and you're listening to the right music, that's the life or death. Like that changes your pace in sports and even video games. We're talking about how your Let It Rock's in Madden, and the impact to all the people around the world. I mean, you have 100 million views on YouTube, and I'm sure your stream numbers are insane. So it's kind of like, I can't even fathom like how many people you touched. So it's
Oh, I
insane.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool feeling. It's especially since I started telling stories on TikTok, and
Mhm.
a lot of people are like, "Well, you're just talking about the past," and I'm like, I'm doing it. A lot of the TikToks that I
Mm.
do is sort of for posterity. Is that the right word? In terms of what I mean is, I kind of want to just have that footprint of me telling the stories, especially in a world where there's so much information and everybody kind of, you can Google things. Oh, yeah, it's on Google. Yeah, it must be true, and
ChatGPT.
are you
stuff
sure?
like
It's like,
that,
how did
yeah.
this happen? Well, and then they just basically funnel all the previous information from any other article ever written, which may or may not be true.
Mhm.
So I wanted to have that there as a footprint, just kind of how things happened and my take on them, and just put my energy into it. And the greatest part about it is I've gotten so much feedback. Like, I remember one guy he said, the greatest comment. I did another one about it. He said, it was a lonely boy, lost in like 7th grade, and there was only 3 things on my iPod, and it was you, Kanye, and Kid Cudi, and you were the one who gave me the confidence that altered the course of my life.
That's
And
awesome.
that guy's like a firefighter now, you know what I
Huh.
mean?
Oh, wow.
And then I've heard people say, I became a tennis player. I mean, it's all these things I
Yeah.
never would have expected. Like, and it just, and it's funny because like as an artist, you go through these highs and lows and
Mhm.
ebbs and flows and highs and lows. And now we're doing a new song, highs and, but
Beatbox.
I'll be sitting there like, I don't know, I can't come up with anything today. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Should I quit? And then you just read something like that, and I'm like, wow, okay, yeah, all right, got it. Okay, got to get. This is what I do.
Because now that you're on TikTok, and I don't know, like when,
I'm a TikToker.
yeah,
TikTok.
you like it?
I'll be getting my self tanning endorsements just before you know it. Just you wait.
Your fan base, and we were talking about it too. I think you see comments, and a lot of people block comments on YouTube, but all your comments are positive, and I'm like,
That's a
It-
bad thing, by the way.
is it real? Is it real? I mean, it's
They're not all positive. Trust me. You haven't read deeply enough.
real.
It's the
No.
algorithms. It's
the algorithm. The
But I'm
algorithm is
glad you're
for
being
you.
shown that.
Yeah. No. That. I mean.
But I was gonna say, like, does as an artist, you hear some celebrities say like, oh, I don't, like LeBron James sometimes says like, oh, I don't like, read through the comments. Do you ever like go through and like you see one and you're like, damn, like F that guy?
I don't ever go like on YouTube. I don't ever go through them to go through them as in like an afternoon activity. I only go because like I do like to respond to people
Mhm.
because I see how much it means to them,
Mhm.
and that's great, and it makes them feel connected, and it makes me feel connected to them, and really that's what this is about at the end of the day. It's connecting to people and affecting them in some way, or I suppose. And really
Right.
for me it's just I make the music just for my own therapy. So
Are you more active on TikTok or on Instagram or both?
I like I think TikTok is sort of reaching out to more people so people can find you a little bit easier.
Mhm.
I've found
Mm.
Instagram seems to be a little bit more like a Facebook kind of thing where you're kind of only hitting the people that are interacting with you.
Right.
And if they're not interacting with you and they follow you, they're not even being shown your stuff.
Right.
Whereas TikTok, like, I was telling a story about how Rick Rubin wanted to sign me back in the day or whatever. I went to his house and,
Mhm.
people are like, oh my God, no, he's horrible, good things, bad things. And I'm like, dude, I'm just like sharing a story. It's
Right.
not that deep, but you're like I think everyone's kind of doing the same thing. I think where you're sort of making the content and just spreading it across,
Mhm.
So I try to but I think TikTok is probably, like I said, the easiest to sort of suddenly reach people. But the coolest part about it is there's all these people out there who don't know I exist on TikTok, and they grew up on it, or they still listen, or
And then you fall
they're
under
looking
their-
for new stuff, and then they're suddenly connected to you now, and that's what I like more of. I like seeing that happen more
Mhm.
on there, because you hear their stories. Oh my God, this song was the changed my life, or whatever. Little things that I just would have never thought happened, or to anybody. I was living in my own world, so
Mhm.
it's so cool to hear.
Start from scratch question. If you're a musician, and we kind of touched it earlier, but it's all about like what steps would you take to get to the top if you had to start from scratch? Like if you
Like
didn't
to a
make any
new up
music.
and coming like artist.
Yeah.
Well,
What do you do?
Or
you
not
know, I mean, there's a lot of layers to that question.
Yeah.
One being, who are you as a person, and what do you want to do, and what are you doing? Like, for
yeah.
example, you could do like the Tekashi 6ix9ine approach of just like, I'm literally just going to get as much attention as possible,
Mm-hmm.
and that will work to a degree. I don't know how far it will work, but you could do that. You could take the approach that you're just gonna not care about anybody's opinion. You're just gonna do whatever you do and be your complete self. You could reinvent yourself as a character and embody that character and be that character. Um, there's people doing it I see that just do, beautiful, sensitive singing and piano, and they just sort of allow it to happen, and they share their art. So there's so many ways, and it depends on what you want to be. If you want to be a hip hop producer, obviously that's not the way. If you wanted to be a hip hop producer, it's very simple. Just make 3 beats a day, post them, film yourself doing them, and that's what there is to do. And then hope that you connect to artists, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you were a singer songwriter, it's going to be a different path. I can definitely tell you that, like, from what I've seen, for the most part, if you're trying to get like a traditional record deal, you're gonna definitely have to build up something in terms of a fan base before, and that wasn't the case back in the day. You could just you could just be really dope, and like someone be like, he's dope or she's dope, and let's sign it. We're gonna blow it up, and
Right.
that is not happening so much, if at all, anymore. I think it's really, get your fan base, and then we'll see if we can take it to the next level.
Speaking of fan base, is it capital intensive? As in, if I really wanted to, let's just say, you know what, I think I'm good. Can I throw money
No,
at myself
no, it
to
won't work.
artificially create?
It won't. No, it won't work. It won't work. I've seen some friends and acquaintances try to do that. It absolutely is a total waste. I wouldn't spend $1 actually.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't. I mean, you could see what, throw a few $100 to some ads if you want. And try it. I mean, I just don't think.
Or how about paying a feature? Like, me and Eric.
Oh yeah, I mean that's different. If you're paying for someone who has reach and fam. I mean, I thought you were literally talking like, we're just gonna go dump, $100,000 at radio, and
I should have clarified. My bad.
have 5 PR, like PR. It's like, because it's like, at the end of the day, you are who you are, and radio's gonna play what's popping with the fan bases on TikTok, and as well, as all those other things, and you can hire a PR person, but they've got to talk about something. If you're not doing anything, then what are you going to talk about? So yeah, a feature could be a really good approach to if you want to spend money. I don't think there's anything wrong with like making a great video if you want to spend money on that. It just depends. It's like, if you're down to like your last X amount of dollars, like, I wouldn't like go run it up and think it's going to work that way.
That's so different compared to the corporate world. It's like, corporate world, I could be like, you know what, I'm just going to invest in all these courses, buy certificates, and you could kind of move up the corporate ladder. In like music, because it's an art, you can't just throw money at it and it's going to get better.
Well, I mean, you could invest in things, but you still like have to do something.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, even in the corporate world, like, I mean, you could buy something and hope the price of that thing goes up, but that works in anything.
Exactly.
And then you're at risk. If you're really supposed to be doing this, and you're a real artist, and God put you on, and this, again, there are people that will disagree with this, and we can talk about them too. I think, like, if you're a real artist and this is what you do and this is who you are and this is why God put you on earth, isn't it enough just to make a lot of art? Like, isn't it better, instead of spending money on the thing that's probably not naturally resonating with people, I think your best bet is to make something else and to put your energy into digging deeper. Like, I think about people that I admired in the past. Would Prince, like, run ads for himself? Would David Bowie, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Would,
good point.
like, no, like, they're dope, so people come to them.
Mhm.
you know, so maybe you could use a little bit more, um, just for all intents and purposes, called, let's say, female energy, right? And
Yeah.
this, again, we might get into some trouble. But you know, if we look at
More
like
more
sort
views.
sort of like it just no, just sort of like female energy being that, you know, male
Yeah.
energy goes out, makes it happen. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, and this is gonna happen. I'm gonna make it happen. If it doesn't happen, I'm gonna make it happen.
Mhm.
And female energy, in the traditional sense, let's just say,
Yeah.
is I'm going to make myself beautiful, and then people are going to come to me,
Mhm.
right? So I see art a little bit more like that, because you have to understand something. As an artist, you may feel like nobody cares and nobody can see you, but people get paid hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars a year who work at record companies just to find you. So maybe you could make yourself a little bit more interesting, or you know, maybe you're not being honest enough in your art, or maybe you're being too honest, or maybe, you know, what can you do that's within your reach instead of spending money to try to um, reach people. I think that's just it's a perspective, and it may change, but that's my perspective on things at the moment.
Can I take an individual example from your book of work, I guess we could call it?
Sure.
So, I Will Not Break. Love the song, and we talked
Thanks, man.
before, and I mentioned that before. And speaking about reach, I think when music, I'm not in the music business, I'm not in the movie business, but I see there's a synergy when the music is played in a movie, and it gets that same feeling when the music's played, you know, during halftime.
Of course.
How it's, you know, I'm just as example, I Will Not Break, I thought would be like a great Fast and Furious, you know, in the movie. If it was played in, it just like it connects.
Yeah,
do you
that'd be
feel
great.
Do you feel the
Get it
same
over
way?
to them.
Don't laugh, don't laugh. I was talking about, I'm like, should I mention this on the pod? I'm like, I went and you know, just networking, you know,
Do
went
it.
on LinkedIn, and I'm
Run
like,
up the flow.
yeah,
Yeah.
who's, you know, who produces, you know, the Fast and Furious? Look, who's business development? Contact them and just send
Yeah.
them. But I'm like, would you be down if I just
Of
reach out? I already
course.
have the connection. I just have to send them.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Finder's fee.
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
We
no.
got you, man. What you
honestly-
need? We got vodka. You like vodka?
A couple of
You got
shots.
gin.
Yeah. So obviously I don't have any music ability, but being able to connect people.
I think that's
is-
amazing, and I love that you're thinking that way, because people are in the music business are probably a little bit more jaded as to things happen, because they're already thinking like,
Mhm.
okay, well, I got to get to this thing person, and then the thing, and who's the
Yeah.
thing, and then it's got to go through this thing, and then,
Mhm.
well, the soundtrack's gonna be on XYZ Records, so then they're gonna be like kind of front running things with their own
Yeah.
artists, and
Mhm.
they give up. But like, I think you've got a better shot with the way you're approaching it. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's great. You're just like, you're innocent and you don't know how it works,
Yeah.
so you're just gonna reach out and go, hey, I think this is great. What do you think? And then I think that has a better shot than the traditional path. You know, just like every other business that's been around for a long time, the record business is
Mhm.
very, it's sort of like closed-minded in its approach, you know,
Mhm.
and which is why I think it's breaking down a little bit in terms of structure. It's not breaking down in terms of what it's, you know, it still has all those masters. It's going to make money forever on this old stuff, but I'm saying the model
Mhm.
is breaking down a little bit, because things are just, you know, there's so much red tape at every
Mhm.
point. It's to the point where even the people inside the company is just like, I don't even want to sign this because it's gonna be a headache if I bring it to here, and then they've got this lawyer and that.
Gotcha.
You know, it's so much
Bureaucracy,
so
yeah.
much of that. So I love your approach. Go rock it.
Speaking about like featuring like for like something like Fast and Furious, but as in like music itself, has there been anybody that like obviously you've been, you know, having featured like Lil Wayne in your songs, Rick Ross? Are there any artists out there that you're like, you know, I wish I could have featured, like had them on my song, or I've been on their song? Like, are there any artists out there that you've ever been like, you know?
Of course. I mean, yeah, you know,
Can you name one, like
dead or
Logic?
alive. Like, I mean, like, you were talking rappers. Were we talking like just
Any
collaboration?
artist, any artist.
I mean, I would have loved to have had, you know, like a Jay-Z feature. I mean, obviously, you know, who wouldn't? You know, I would love to do something with like the 1975. I think they're
right.
an amazing like they are the best band in the world right now. There's so I can't even answer that question. Like there's so like you're basically just asking me who I think is great and who I'd be thrilled to do something with. There's so many of those
Right.
people.
Well, in that situation, at least in business, it's kind of like, okay, there's profit sharing. So, like, let's just say if you don't care about, you know what, all the revenue that is going to be generated from this song, you could have it. But this is, for instance, it's going to put me, let it rock level. Like, would you sacrifice the revenue from, like, is that possible? Do people really, you know what,
Yeah,
that
they
make
they
sense?
they do, but it's not the same dynamic as you think, because the thing is you're dealing with so many unknowns in it. So it's not like, hey, okay, this is what we'll do. We'll get this guy, we'll give him the whole spread, and then I'll
Yeah.
take nothing off the run. And it doesn't work
It
like that,
doesn't.
because it's so, we don't know ever what's going to happen with a
Mhm.
record.
Yep.
Like you could make a record, you could have every feature, everything set up correctly,
Yeah.
and it lose money. At least for the company. Like it doesn't mean it's going to make money. And then you could have a kid who's in Kentucky, like making a thing on his iPhone in BandLab,
Yep.
while his mom's like making macaroni and cheese in the background, and it makes millions of dollars. You don't know what anything's going to be, so it's not like okay, we're going to partner with Microsoft on this. We'll give them the IP. And
Yeah.
it doesn't work like that.
Speaking of too many features and stuff, like, nothing against DJ Khaled, but he's in Miami. Do you guys like?
Yeah, I did a song with him years ago called "A Million Lights," and a lot of people were on that. I had, he's a hustler to the max. He's a great guy. I love him. I think he's cool. He's hilarious. He's awesome. Got nothing but good things to say about him. He's a cool dude. So I don't, I mean, if you people talking, well, he doesn't do this. A lot of people don't do a lot of things.
Right.
Like, so
Mhm.
what? Most singers don't play any instruments. Most of the singers that you think are like absolute geniuses and
Yeah.
you idolize don't even write their songs. At least Khaled is in there. He's working. He's hustling. He does make beats. He's making things happen.
Mhm.
And he's a personality. He's great.
Yeah. I mean, touching on like you saying people don't write songs, you actually write a lot of songs I don't know a lot of people actually know you were behind of. Like for instance, like Lifehouse, you did Selena Gomez's Round and Round,
Yeah.
and then I think you've Cobra Starship too, like back in the day.
Yeah, I've done a lot of stuff. Keith Urban, we had a
Mhm.
#1 song, a little bit of everything. Yeah, wide. Like I've had a wide variety. I think it was coming from a time of just being, sort of like in the forefront of things, and every door being open that was never open before. Because when I had written Let It Rock and produced it, we were like, hey, you want to work on this? You want to work on this? I was like, yeah, great, let's do it. So I was doing a lot of that stuff. I felt toward the end of that it was just a little bit like it was changing as I was doing it. There's a lot of writers on these songs now. Like
Mhm.
they're sort of not going to like the superstar writer producers
Right.
like the way they were exactly. It's a little bit more of like a free for all. Like 3 people start the song, and the A&R guy takes it to the guy that he publishes, and then this one, and then they're bringing it to this person and that person, and before you know it, there's like 12 people in a song.
Right.
And for me, a lot of it's just like I don't even know what I did on this anymore.
Mhm.
I don't like. I mean, yeah, sure, I'll take it. It's cool, but
Mhm.
it just doesn't align with me artistically, integrity wise, all the time. Having said that, if I have a song that I've written that I'm not using and someone else would sound great on it and love it, then yeah. Or if it's a friend of mine and we're just vibing and making stuff, and like I'm all for it. But um, I just don't. I feel like I want to be more authentic with my path,
Right.
and I don't. I can't relate to the way a lot of those things are being done in this day and age. I just feel like a lot of it's not art. It's just
Right.
a 12-person collage.
So like when you worked with Keith Urban on this the country song, like obviously
I
that
didn't.
genre.
Yeah, but I didn't. But that was a trip to Nashville, and there was 2 brothers, the Warren brothers. We sat down. We were like hanging out, just shooting the shit for like an hour. Came up with a song in another hour. I brought it home, demoed it, and sent it over. It was like that. It was again. It was like fun. It was
Right.
inspired. It was easy.
But does that like do you have to take yourself out of like what you're normally doing and then putting yourself like into like country because like it's a whole different I guess like
I mean,
music?
my contribution to that was really the music.
Mhm.
So I didn't sit there, you know, I mean, yeah, if I heard some words, I would kind of throw them into the mix, but I can't take credit for sitting
Right.
there going the Daisy Dukes and all the stuff they talk about. You know, they looked at me like, here's beat maker dude from hip hop world on Cash Money, and we're country lyricists, and that's how it went down, and that
Mhm.
was perfectly fine with me. And those guys are amazing, and they're fun as hell to work with. So
Right.
It's kind of like a wild card. Just listening to your music.
it's a joker.
What's your opinion on this? Your style, it's definitely unique, and in a weird way, I see how it kind of Enrique Iglesias, kind of like the Spanish music, kind of he has his similar flavor. Even does that make sense? I
No.
see similarities. When I'm listening to his music and your music, there's definitely overlap. Does that
No, I worked with him for days. He's super cool. Like a long
Really?
time ago. Yeah, he's a great dude. He's awesome. I don't see any similarities, but you know he's
Yeah, you lost me on the
He's
similarity
cool.
part.
Well, I mean, I think with Cardi B.
if you're saying I'm really handsome, is that what you're trying to say? You just like
But what's your opinion? I
I'm a
think.
Latin lover.
Well, I think like at least in the U.S., like Bad Bunny blew up. I feel like 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't have like the Bad Bunnies as popular on the chart in the U.S. And I feel like, would you be open to like not necessarily with Bad Bunny, but just kind of more add Spanish to your flow and collaborate with a Spanish artist?
Sure. I mean, it sounds fun.
Yeah.
I don't have any. You know, it sounds great. I mean, it's not something I'm like out seeking, but
Okay.
Right.
yeah, it would be awesome.
Yeah.
I'd be down for that. Sure.
It's like an open-ended question right there. Like Justin Bieber did what Despacito, and
Yeah, that's true. It's just
It would probably be actually pretty cool. Probably be really different. Probably be a different take on the whole, you know, language collab thing. Probably be amazing.
yeah.
one thing that
Especially Miami.
Yeah, I know, right?
Miami.
You should do it.
Come on,
Set that up
come on.
while you're doing the Fast and
Yeah.
Furious thing. Go
You got-
set that up. How long are you here for?
Kill two birds with one stone.
you
That's why
you
I
know
got it. I got it.
one thing for me, like personally, like when I listen to your music and like going on your style and everything, but somebody that I feel, and again, this is my personal input, is like Macklemore. I feel like with your music and like with his flow and like your guys' style, I feel like would be a very good collab. And like
Yeah, it'd be great.
Macklemore, I feel like has like because he's worked with like a lot of different artists.
Add it to your list.
So I feel
Add
like
it to your list.
that would be like a really cool collab.
Sure.
But so, business deals comparing business. I guess music also is a business, but like, deals could take 6 months. In the music business, if I'm like, you know what, Snoop Dogg, I want you on a song. How fast could that happen? Just, what's the average?
Well, that's not really like a business deal. That's kind of like you're just sort of it's like a record deal could take 6 months.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But how fast could that happen?
Yeah.
I mean, if you know him, you can call him up right away, and he'll probably do it for you and say,
Here's
get me tomorrow.
200,000. Is that what usually those rates are? I think
I mean, I don't know what.
depends on
I
the
have no
artist.
idea what he gets.
you're not doing it just to become famous. You're doing it because you love the art. So you want your art to talk for itself.
It's not just
That's
what
real.
It's not just what I want. I've tried some things and I just feel like my path is to be a creative person. My path is not that path at this moment.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I wouldn't do something in the future, but
Mhm.
I can tell you like the guardrails of my own life experience have pushed me back into doing what I do first and foremost, because I'm kind of an all-in person. Like I can't invest in real estate. Like, you know why I couldn't invest in real estate? Because I wouldn't have like a few rental properties or a thing.
Yeah.
I would leverage myself out to the max. I'd own like whole blocks of things. I'd be borrowing money on top of that, and then like 3 months later, I would just like the whole thing would go bust. Like I can't just do a thing on the side. I can a little bit, but for the most part, I have to like where my focus goes, all
Yeah.
my focus goes.
I think that's a trait that a lot of people that are successful have, and because you're just ultra focused. And a lot of people, especially we're talking about TikTok and we're in all these things, we have all these different information coming
It's
at
crazy.
us all over the world.
Yeah, 5 ways to do 3 things to have
Yeah.
2 ways to it's like,
And-
dude, like, okay.
And like you said, you're ultra. If you're all in, and I feel like a lot of people lack that.
It's not from I've tried to do other things
Yeah.
and I can't do both the same way. Like I would love to do it. It sounds great. Like,
Yeah.
hey, let's go do this, and then I'm all like calling her like, guess what? I'm quitting this and I'm doing, and it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not, it's great. And then like a year later you're just like, wow, no, that didn't work, and then this, and then and it's also like I said,
Mhm.
I'm just trying to take cues from my own from the mirror of life, if you
Yeah.
will, from just seeing what has occurred at different times. And when I do what I do, things go well. When I go off the track, things don't go as well.
You climb the ranks like super high up, and for something like as successful as you were, how does that, and this could be an obvious question, but how does that change you as a person? Being so successful, like, does that change you as a person? Like your overall outlook in life, your overall,
Can I add-
attitude.
Can I add on to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you didn't reach that level, this is weird. Like in a parallel universe, would you be a completely different person, or would you be the same Kevin Rudolf? Like, could you picture yourself? Like, does that make sense? I don't want to get too philosophical, but just like understanding yourself.
I wouldn't be any different.
Yeah,
It doesn't have anything to do with anything.
yeah,
Success is fun, but the thing is it's like anything else. You have highs, and there's highs and lows, pros and cons. No, but seriously, it's just things get more complicated. Things get more like serious in a way. You have a lot more people
Right.
around you. You have things going on in your life that
Eyes on you constantly.
are no, it's not that. It's like I don't care about that. That's cool. Like that's people like liking or hating or whatever they're doing. I'm just even from the business perspective and
responsible.
things
for
like
people.
you have a moving. You're a product is what I'm trying to say, and you have a lot of moving parts around you. So you have to deal with that in a way that you can continue to do what you love and still have fun. Like that also can weigh you down.
Right.
A lot of the things that you think you want are also things that can weigh you down. It's like having a giant boat. It's fun to have a boat. It's fun to say you have a boat. It's fun to look at the boat. And then you got to clean the boat, and you got to have a guy fix the boat, and you got a thing, and you got to dock it, and you got a thing, and you got to bilge the pump, and the whatever. I don't know even what you got to do, whatever. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not the greatest example, but it's still early in the morning.
Right.
Well,
Hey, you take a shot and it'll wake
Take
you
a
up.
shot.
Speaking of boats, what's not the best investment? I need to stop thinking about business. What's like the best purchase that you ever made? When I say best purchase, I mean like something that you're like, I always wanted to buy this since I was a little kid, and because
Well, not even that.
now
What's
you
your,
have the
what's your
resources. Yeah,
biggest most regretful
or
purchase?
both. Yeah,
Like you're like, damn, why
Two
did I buy
questions.
this?
I regret almost everything.
Really?
Yep.
really.
I wish I'd done nothing.
Really?
Yep. Wish I wish I had like literally done nothing, kept my life really, really small and easy. And I mean, I lived in some amazing places. I've had some amazing cars and Ferraris and Rolls Royces and things and all this stuff. And nothing made me any happier whatsoever. And actually, most of it created aggravation.
Do you think it's because when people get to that point, does like the materialistic factor come into play, and that's why people get like the fancy cars and all this stuff, and like does
Of course, but I think it's great to. I don't. The thing is, I'm saying it like, I'm not saying you shouldn't have those
No,
things.
right.
You should shoot for them. They're symbols,
Right.
And once you get the symbol, then you go, okay, I'm that person who has the Ferrari, and now I can feel like I've got a Ferrari, and that's cool. I really don't think any of those things made me any happier whatsoever. Like, I actually don't. The wanting of them made me happy.
Right.
The getting of them, but it's I'm not against material things. I like nice shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I like good food. I like living in a nice place. I like having a nice view. I like all those things, but there is a heavy letdown after you get it. You're like, okay, and I wish I had the kind of sage wisdom to just go, I'm not doing anything.
Right.
Like, I'm literally just like doing nothing and go, hey man, do you have this? Why don't you do that? No, I'm chilling. Because the thing is, like, to me, the most important thing to spend money on is your health, food, things that anything you can bring into your life that brings you clarity, joy, peace of mind, like movies, books, trips. Trips are great. I didn't take a lot of trips. I do regret that because I was on tour a lot and I was so tired from all that stuff. I just didn't want to get in a plane again. But I think, travel is a great investment. I think maybe, some kind of, I think good quality food is a good investment. If you have like maybe a trainer who's, mental, physical, whatever, things that like support your health mentally, physically, artistically. I think that's where it's at. And then the rest is just freedom, because the only point in having money to me is to not need the money.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So it's like the minute like you buy you buy the $12 million house and the 3 Ferraris and the thing, and then all those things cost money to maintain. So now you're less free than when you had no money.
Right.
So now you have to do a lot of things that you don't want to do to keep the money coming in, to keep these objects in play in your life.
At the end of the day, you said you don't even really need it.
So you're now a slave to the things, and it's a cycle. But if you can be a little bit more of like an old soul about it and very wise, and just have the money to have the freedom.
Right.
And just to say, I don't really want to do that thing, and or take a feature that you don't want to do, or things like that, or those are things that you can do, if you have the money.
And when
So
you
it's
went
just
on
freedom.
when you went on tour, like, you said you didn't travel a lot, but like when you did go out, different places, did you ever get to like experience, or was it like, okay, you're here in this one town, now you're going to the next place like right away?
Of course, that's the whole thing. You never get to experience any of it. You're seeing like a dressing room, an airport, and
Is it always like you're on like a time base, like you're going to this place, now this place, and this
definitely
place?
is. Yeah.
Oh wow, damn, that's not fun. It's not fun at all.
So you're like, oh, I've been there before. Really? Could you talk about it? Not really.
Going back on tours really quick?
Yeah.
Where's your favorite place that you've ever like performed at?
I actually really had a lot of fun at this Nets game I did at the Barclays Center.
Yeah.
Like, that was a blast. Like, I loved being in New York and doing that. Yeah, that was great.
Does it feel good doing it back home?
Yes, it does. And New York's a real audience, so you know what you're gonna get.
Right.
Yeah.
But we so many places. It's hard to even remember. But like, it's a lot of fun. Sometimes in the South, it's like Charlotte and places like that are really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Great crowds.
When have you done? And I know you have, but like, would you rather do like an individual tour or a festival? Like when you're going like on your own kind of solo tour, or you're being in part of like a big festival. Because I know you're at one.
I can't really, like, it just depends on the crowd, really, and like, to me, so much of it is how it sounds. Like, if your sound is good, and because a lot of times when you do these like one-offs, you don't necessarily have your proper sound check, things like that. So if it sounds good, you feel good on stage, and the crowd's great, that's really all it's about.
If I was at Nets game like literally a month ago, I'm like, just in front of all those fans, and like you were saying, the spotlight's on you, and it's nothing new to you, but just from a layperson, that it's just so many things like could go wrong. Like, I just think in my head, like, oh my God, like, make sure everything is orchestrated correctly. Do you have a team to make sure that you're properly set up?
Of course, but there's other factors. I'm just saying, like, when you're doing a show, things like that. Like, there's you might not have your own front of house. You may be on the bill with like 5 other people.
Mm-hmm.
You just never know.
And when you performed at the Nets, like, did you get to enjoy the game afterwards, or was it kind of just
no, it's great. They gave us like a suite and full food and bar and the whole thing. Yeah, it was great. That's really cool. They treated us great.
Are you upset that Kyrie left? Which What's your thoughts on that?
I don't get involved in such things. I just,
Are you a
stay
flat
focused.
earther?
I'm to tell you the truth. I wish I was followed sports more because I've been so lucky to get to go to all these games and play all these events. I just never got like fully into following sports.
So we got a good perspective of how you started,
Mm-hmm.
the ups and downs, and right now in Miami, I know you love the lifestyle. What's if you don't mind sharing, what's your plan? Like, what's your next 3-year plan? Like, if you don't mind sharing.
I don't
with the
really have a
audience.
3-year plan.
Yeah.
My plan is make music, make art,
Okay.
put it out, and that's really my full plan because everything follows that.
Mhm.
And it's not something where you can say, all right, this is what we're seeing in the projections are. You can't make projections
Mhm.
because you don't know what's going to happen, right? Like the best thing you can do is make music, and obviously I still write and produce and do things with other people as well. So I think my plan is just make art. There's no what else is there? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Are there any songs that like you've written that obviously some like Michael Jackson they say that he's got a whole vault of songs. That
Oh,
haven't
you're
been-
asking if I'm putting out an album? Yeah, I am.
Are there songs that you haven't released that like you've written years ago and you're like
Of course, dude. Yeah, of course.
Are there going to be times you're going to release those?
Maybe, maybe, yeah. No, I'm putting together an album and doing all those things. But if you're asking me like, what's my inner game plan?
Yes.
Just be creative, make art, make music. That's what I do. I feel like every time I go away from that, I need to get back to that, and that's all I'm doing.
So, what's the number one influence? Like, how do you get influenced? So I'm putting in like in my shoes. At least if I'm doing like a project, I have to have everything has to influence me correctly in a positive way. Like if it's just negative, I know my performance is not going to do well in music and music writing. Like, do you have special things that you put yourself in a certain environment to give you a better?
Yeah,
influence?
I think that's a good question. I think you have to get yourself in a receptive place. You have to feel good.
Mhm.
You want to feel good. It's like you can be sad, but you don't want to be like down. You want to feel like you're playing.
Yeah.
Everything should feel like play. I think, and that goes across the board for anything you do in life.
Mm-hmm.
Like you should always feel like you're at play because you do your best stuff, your most inspired stuff.
And like for some of your music that you've been super inspired by, are there songs that when you make them? I don't know personally for your side, but if I was an artist and I made a song, I feel like every song I would make, I'm like, that's gonna be a hit. That's gonna be a hit. Do you
Yeah,
get
you
that
should
all the
feel
time?
that.
And then
Yeah.
do you have songs that you're like that you didn't expect to be like as big as they were, and then songs that just completely just flopped? Like, are there songs that you feel like damn, I put all this effort?
I mean, for the most part, I feel like if I feel good about a song, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be huge.
Right.
Always, everything. I'm always amazed when things like don't catch right away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always amazed. Isn't that funny?
Right.
It's the truth,
Yeah.
though.
Right.
I always feel that way.
I mean, I feel that way all the time with work too. Like sometimes I'm like, damn, this actually came out really well, and then sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm surprised this didn't go too well. And I thought.
I mean, to find go too well too, because the thing is, like a song, a piece of art, a piece of music, something could, start to resonate in 5 years from now.
Right,
Like you
right.
could make something today. Like look at that, Kate Bush record. 40 years later, like
Pop
it's the
back
biggest
up.
song in the world. Like it's a long time.
And so many people
But
like,
you don't-
twisted that song too. Like some people are doing like, I don't know if you consider. I mean, I'm sure you consider them covers, but like they turn them into like alternative versions of it and everything. Like it was kind of interesting with that Kate Bush song.
Yeah, I really think I like I said, I'm talking to you guys, but I'm talking to myself, and I'm really just trying to simplify things for my own self. And I think the answer is just create, put it out, create, put it out. No expectations, just have fun, just do what you do. I don't see any other way that that there is, because at the end of the day, opportunities do arise, things happen, whatever, and it's all related back to being prepared for those opportunities. And if you don't have the work, you're not prepared. for a long time I was like kind of in my wilderness phase where I was like, I don't know, it's just changing, and like no one cares about this anymore, and they're just all over here, and I don't know. And then it just took me a long time to realize like this is not a like problem of the world. This is a creative problem, because the thing is, if I'm doing what I love and I'm feeling good about it, then things fall into place, you know. And some people externalize so much. They always think, like when we were talking before we started, where do you see things going in the industry? Where does it's like things aren't going anywhere. They will go where you make them.
Right.
And if you're not making anything and you're just looking at the weather forecast of some industry, you know, it's not like finance where people are like, oh, it's, all the money's going into gold now. Yeah,
Right.
we just go over here. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
If you're an industry person and, you know, like let's say we're signing all K-pop bands, and then you suddenly just go, okay, I'll do that, you know, but then you're always going to be late anyway. So, like I said, the best thing to do is just be a leader, and that's what you have to do. You have to lead and say, what I'm doing is next. It's not where is it going, because it's a victim mentality, and you're just going to be at best late.
When you put together projects like for your songs, and like you said, you're working on an album, when do you know, like, hey, this is going to be a part of the album, this is going to be a single? Like, how do you distinguish which songs go where, if that question makes sense?
Now they're basically all singles in this day and age.
Is it because of the streaming way, or
Yeah.
Quick question. So I know we keep on bringing social media into the picture. Feedback. How do you get quick feedback? Is TikTok, Instagram a quick way to realize, you know what, let me put a small 10 seconds of this song. Let's see if I get a good reaction. Is that a good plan, or does that work well? How do you? The better question.
I don't think it's a good plan. I think you can do it, and if people freak out, then great.
Yeah.
But TikTok may not show it to a lot of people. So you may be showing it to like 150 people instead of 150,000, and then if you believe in it, should you abandon it? No.
You know, when you play or you post on TikTok or on Instagram, on social media, and you have in the background like your songs, do they ever give you like a warning, like, hey, this is copyright or whatever? Like
Yeah.
That's funny.
Do you always have to like submit it yourself?
No,
or?
it's not submitting it. They want you to use the audio in that. They're doing that because they want you to use
Really?
their audio. Yeah.
Wow.
Which is correct. Which, as you should. I mean, I guess because it trickles back to you anyway somehow.
Right. Interesting. That's kind of cool. I did not know that, because I always thought, like, when an artist goes like, that's your music, you can post it, whatever. But like, I didn't know if they still kind of be like, hey, flagging, like, you still got to get the corrections.
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
They're flagging.
Honestly, I think it's a great podcast episode. It's touching like literally all the
Right.
points that we're trying to touch.
I did want to ask a couple like more questions. Like, obviously we've touched a lot inside, but collaborating with like other artists and like just working on the outside. But we've mentioned like you worked with Lil Wayne.
Good point.
How is it like having like, obviously Lil Wayne's such a huge influential like rapper, one of my favorite artists. But how is it, you worked with Timbaland, you worked with Lil Wayne, Rick Ross. Do you get pieces from each one of those artists that you kind of take back with you, and you're like, okay, my next song, I want to include this in here? Or, is it kind of more so you always just kind of not stick to your same style, but stick to your, what you're best at kind of thing?
Well, I always do, especially with working with rappers, like people say, what's it like working with? And they do what they do. So I'm not sitting there going, hey, you know what? Could you take out that word? I mean, no one, not even me. Nobody does that.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of like beat maker, rapper, and rapper gets the beat and then does what they do over it, right? So there's no real like, when working with, like most of the working with would be like more probably on a video set, really. When we do those videos. But other than that, they do what they do, and I
Right.
do what I do.
When you guys collaborate, do they have like, for instance, I've seen like in interviews, Lil Wayne says like most of his lyrics he just on the spot.
Yeah.
Does that kind of like throw off the flow sometimes, or no? Because like, is there a lot of retakes at all? Because like if they're coming off on the spot,
no.
it's like,
And the best thing about him, I guess if I had one takeaway watching him, I would say he has like a supreme confidence in himself and his artistry, and where most people would sort of do it and go, I don't know, that's not good enough. Let me do it again.
Mm-hmm.
He knows it's good enough because he did it,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So, like, you don't question Picasso. You don't go,
Right.
I don't know if that line is straight enough. He did it,
Mhm.
so he's the artist.
Right.
So if he's the artist, that's his art. And if the
Mhm.
line looks that way, then that's the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
Wow.
Going back to like, you know, your old songs and then to your new songs. Like Welcome to the World, that is by far one of my favorite songs from
No, I appreciate it, man.
like that song is honestly, if I don't know if Apple does it anymore, but if you could see like the counts of how many times you listen to the song, that one's definitely in the top 3.
Oh, thanks, man.
But for Welcome to
Appreciate
the
it.
World, when you come through with, you know, your old albums to your new albums, are there certain songs that, you know, you kind of carry into where you're like, okay, this is kind of, you know, you kind of talked about it now where like, you know, you don't know what the industry's like, you don't know where the direction's going to go, but you know, you're like, you know what, this old song that I wrote, I want it in here and it's going to flow with all the new stuff that I made.
No, I have a band and all that. Like, that was me like a while ago going, all right, so how does this fit with that? And now I just think that the best way for me to move forward is just like creative abandon. You know, it's like I put this new single out called 10 Fingers, and it's like it's much more of a vibe record,
Mm-hmm.
but I know it's a good record. So I don't care how many streams it has or how many what. Then it doesn't. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like I can't make it go back. And how does this connect? And is this going to be the same thing? Is that like I don't think we live in that world right now. Like maybe years ago, where it's like, okay, radio's, you know, it's such more of a format based thing. But I mean, what do I have, or what does anybody have to lose by just making whatever you want and putting
Right.
it out? Like I don't see how that would have a downside.
It's just
you know?
annoying to see, like, on, you know, for other artists, for instance, like Eminem, people are always like, he should go back to his old style. Same with Kanye, go back to your old style, kind of stuff.
Well, people are gonna say whatever they're gonna say. You know, I like
does that bother? Like, when you see that and you're like,
you know, it's like
or do you kind of block it out?
everybody can have an opinion. Like, what should I do? Like, you know, do you want? I get it. It's like you're looking at it like, okay, you know, this is how I resonate with you. This is how I'm used to listening to your
Mhm.
music. Just give me more of the same thing.
Right.
And it's logical, but
People change.
you want to evolve too,
Mhm.
and maybe you don't like the stage I'm in my evolution, but you might like the next one.
Right.
So I can't stay still. You know, we're talking, if you're an artist, you evolve.
Right.
You don't do one thing. And they would say something anyway. But, oh, man, he does all the same song, man. I only does the same. You know, there's someone else around the corner just saying, like, he only, what did we do this? It said, you know, there's someone else probably saying he only did all his songs. Literally, I'll see like two things next to each other. All his songs sound the same. Be like, he should go back to his old stuff. Like,
Wow.
so
They
you
cancel
don't
each other out. It's like, what
like
that's
that's
crazy.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what you do, people are going to say something.
Right.
So it's just you can't take cues from that.
Mm-hmm. And then, you know, your inspirations growing up, and I've seen, you know, in past interviews, you know, I see it all the time from other artists too. They'll be like, you know, Red Hot Chili Peppers are an inspiration to me, or, you know, Eminem is an inspiration to me, or whatever it is. How is it that, you know, as an artist, when you say inspiration, like, is it the flow? Is it the music style? Like, are you trying to pick pieces of their stuff to try to correlate to your music? Or is it just, you know, they brought you into like, you were so inspired by their successes, their music, that's what made you become an artist?
I think it's the energy behind it, the perspective is what I'd say. Like, and then there could be things where if I'm making a record and I think I like the texture of those drums,
Mm-hmm.
so it could be that too. It could be like, oh, I want it to sound like this. I want I want a really dry, like 70s room sound, you know, a dry, you know, like a real tight
Right.
kit. And then I want to put like this, you know, kind of like, you know, Beatles kind of Hofner bass. And, you know, I could say, I could look at it like a palette of colors in terms of how I want it to sound.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at the heart of it, it's also like how I want it to feel, like the attitude you want to capture.
Right.
the feeling. There's so much to it. Music, you can't describe it. There's no way to describe it. It's just, it's its own form of magic.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always trying to put it into words and contextualize it and make it fit somewhere or relate to something else because it's so, what is it? We can't see it. You can't touch it.
Right.
What
If-
else can you not see and touch, you know?
Right. Exactly.
True.
Who's you know, and I don't know exactly your main influence, but like who would you say is like the number one influence on your style, your career, and just like you know, your build up to being an artist of who you are today?
I can't answer that. I'd say with one, you know, there isn't a one. There may have been moments where I gravitated to a certain band or artist. You know, like most of what I like is pretty like bedrock,
pieces.
like classic. You know, I'm talking like Led Zeppelin, Bob Marley, U2, Van Halen. You know what I mean? Like it's a wide, you know, Sade.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like real Beatles, the Stone, you know, I mean, and on and on. It's generally like, you know, the Clash, like that. I was watching a Joe Strummer movie the other day, and I sort of related to something. You know, when he left the Clash, he sort of felt like he went through this wilderness period, and sort of relating to some of that. You know, just feeling like, what's next? You know,
Mhm.
what do I do next? Where do I go from here? And especially coming with such force and power and intensity for such a long period of time, and then to sort of come down and feel that way, you know. So I think vocally, I do take inspiration from him and from that,
Mhm.
and I love stuff that was like unique to my childhood, like Jane's Addiction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they're one of the best bands of all time, and don't necessarily get the credit for it. You know, newer stuff, it's different. So I just like good music. I mean, I like the things that I have the connection to growing up as well.
And then when you were working at, you know, before Kevin Rudolf, you were working under the name Binoculars.
Well, I put out one project when I was a kid on Maverick through that. Yeah.
Why the change?
Well, I don't. I like there
Is it for
wasn't
a
there
branding?
wasn't a change. I think it was just like I was just sort of like it carried over from something
Into something else.
into something else, and then I dropped it immediately when that album came out, and then I didn't know if it was going to be like a band name or
Mhm.
it was funny when I was like starting to develop like a relationship with Slim at Cash Money, and we're talking about working together. You know, he actually had said to me, you know, maybe we should be a band, or, and I was like, yeah, that'd be cool, or like a solo name or something like that. And then somehow by the time like the first single Let It Rock came out, it just sort of like was like, all right, you're Kevin Rudolf. Like, all right, yeah. Sort of been like easier in a way to be like a project name, you know what I mean? Would have been sort of like easier to be like, yeah, you know, don't have, you know, you don't feel so sort of up front. So it feels weird to me because I don't feel like I'm like some singer, songwriter, solo artisty, like
Right.
regular person that way. But
Does
maybe
how
I'm
was
not.
how was working with Cash Money, like, you know, having the ins and having the connections with all the different artists within Cash Money? You know, I Made It was a huge hit. Being able to work with, you know, all the artists within the record itself, or record label itself, you know.
When I signed to Cash Money, it was much different. It was really like Wayne, and you know, there was still like the older stuff that was sort of looming around, like, you know, Juvenile and all of that, and there was some other people, rappers like Briscoe, and, you know, artists, some also who hadn't popped off yet. So I didn't view it as like what it became. It was kind of like this. It was an independent hip hop label, and was and is. So it was really based around my building that musical connection with Slim.
Mm-hmm.
So he was actually even thinking of starting another pop label at the time. I think he was calling it Slim Vision. And it was going to be like the pop or rock or whatever side of Cash Money.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole thing was just based around an organic connection that we had. And he loved what I was playing him, and I kept bringing him more music. And it was very, very simple. There was no corporate involvement of any kind in making that album.
Right.
So even the features and the Wayne would be like, he would just say like, yeah, I think we should get Wayne in this. I'd be like, let's go. Come on. I'm not gonna, that'd be amazing. So.
And you were the only, like, your style was the only one in Cash Money, right? Like there was no other like kind of like pop rock.
Yeah, no, there wasn't, and it was all new at the time. So, this was right as they were signing, or Wayne was signing Drake and Nicki. So it wasn't quite what it became just yet.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very, like I said, it just all came together like very naturally. It just felt very right at the time.
And now you're on a different label, correct?
No, now I'm independent.
Okay. How does that obviously being assigned to a label versus being independent? Like there's so much, I think it's Chance is independent too, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like he kind of raps about Chance.
Oh yeah, a lot of people are independent now. I mean, the thing is, Cash Money, it was running through Universal Republic then, so like Universal Republic was handling like the marketing and promotion, all that stuff. So that's pretty much what was going on. But the creative connection was me and Slim.
Kevin, this has been awesome, honestly. Thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
We got a lot of information, a lot of
too much information.
Definitely too much.
A lot of perspectives.
Much too much.
But seriously, this was great.
We did a little rant and ramble.
We did, but it was good. It came out really well.
Yeah, it did.
But where can people see your new work, everything coming up?
Yeah,
got all the new news from you
for sure. So I have a new single called 10 Fingers that I just released. And that's out obviously everywhere: Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. You can follow me on Instagram at Kevin Rudolf, Twitter's at Kevin Rudolf, Facebook Kevin Rudolf, TikTok it's Kevin.Rudolf. And for sure, follow me and check out what I'm releasing next too.
And you will answer your followers.
Oh, I love it. I love engaging with everybody, man. I mean, this is what it's about. It's so cool just to, receive love and give love back, and that's what we do.
Perfect. Well, again, this is awesome. Thank you so much. And for our followers, tune us in for our next episode. And we have got lots of guests coming up. So
cool. Thanks for having me.
From sharecropping to pot stills, America's only Black-owned farm-to-bottle distillery is using their 4th-generation farm to create world-class, award-winning spirits made in the heart of Arkansas Delta. And they're doing it with sweet potatoes. Yes, sweet potatoes. Their sweet potato vodka has been racking up awards, including double gold, triple gold, and best of class. Find them online at deltadirtdistillery.com or on Facebook and Instagram at Delta Dirt Distillery, and see why they're named the 2023 Arkansas Tourism Attraction of the Year at this year's Arkansas Governor's Conference. Must be 21 and up to drink. Please drink responsibly.